Hey, welcome back. This is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. How are you guys doing? Today, we're going to get into some really meat of the 6-2 multi-8 youth football defense because today we're going to talk about how to play D-end in the 6-2 multi-8 youth football defense. And the D-end is really, the two D-ends are really the foundation of the 6-2 defense. And so let's jump right into it. So here is, and forgive me, I had to make room for the header here. It says D and contain tackle areas for my video here. So the main thing for our D-ends, like I said, they're the foundation. And the big thing for a D-end is they've got to be smart. They've got to be two, maybe four of your best defensive players, tacklers on your team. They have to be consistent. They have to be very coachable, and they just have to be all-around ball headhunters and know where the football's going. You can't have a defensive end that's going to go cowboy rogue on you and decide they know what to do and they're not going to do the responsibilities because they wind up crashing or they wind up running to the willy-nilly to the other side of the field in that counter reverse. You just got set up and there goes a touchdown. So the big thing about defensive ends in the 6-2 multi-8 youth football defense is they've got to be football players. Now I like to get taller defensive ends, kind of long and lanky and very, very fast because we're playing a type of defensive end position with Will and Sam here. And in the 6-2, our DNs are sort of like outside linebackers. They're DNs because they're on the line of scrimmage in the 6-2 most of the time. But I still call them Will and Sam. And they have to be, I like to play those two guys very, very fast. Because we're on really, if you notice here, they're on a sort of a pass rush blitz angle instead of the traditional box. We don't do that anymore. And I picked this up from Fritz Schumer, one of his defensive books. And he sends his, you can see this angle here for the Sam and Will to blitz in here. They're at this really tight angle, which is about 2 to 3 yards deeper than the deepest near back that they have. And so you can see this here of what we're looking for as far as a rush for them. And if you get quick enough with these two guys, you can actually meet the quarterback pitch and everything in this area right here. So that's really what we're looking for those two guys to do there. And you can see their tackle area. The two D-ends, Will and Sam, have contain. And so, they're really the sweep busters, the bootleg busters, the reverse busters, and the counter busters. I really don't need them making tackles, and you need to explain to them. This area here, there's like 6 people in here with the other 4 down linemen and the 2 linebackers. But if they turn around and look, and I have them do this in practice, there's usually maybe a corner here or nobody, and so they're pretty much on an island there. And so we try to teach them that we want them to turn with their contain everybody back inside to the meat of the defense, because really behind them there may be one guy, and so we want them to turn their key and their running back inside toward the meat of our defense. And you can't really have a DN that likes to crash on you, because usually the sweep angle from here is here. And if he's doing this right, you see he's going to hit this mesh point as they rush. But if you've got a DN coming in here, that back is already swept out. And that is definitely killer. You can't really have that. And so we really preached our DNs that you've really, really got to make sure that those little wing yellow areas there, that's really where we're wanting you to make the most havoc in tackles. You also don't want to. You also don't want your either one of these DNs. If the play goes away here, you don't want him just running out like this. He needs to come up and wait for any counter that's coming back around. And so that's very critical for you to talk to your DNs there. So all their tackles, we're looking for right in this big wing area. We're really looking for them. This is their responsibility. I don't need them to make every tackle, and we talk about this, but we need them to make the big time tackles on the sweeps or the reverses, and those are going to be the big plays. So we want those tackles, and those are worth 3 or 4 regular tackles kind of up the middle. So, because if they sweep, it's probably 15 yards on you, and a reverse might be more. So you've got to let them know that they're making the big time plays for you. And if they do see the ball come down here and they see the football, they can squeeze and drop in as they're on their angle, but they should tackle the running back once they're up in here from behind as they come back down, because they should be high as they're making their rush there. So that's very critical for our defensive ends. And so you can see the yellow areas here. That's where we're really looking for them to play and to be responsible for. And we go over this every practice. Every practice we preach to take the proper angle. Don't hook up with the tight end or a wing back. Use your speed to get around any blocker that's trying to touch you. Get high, get to your mesh point, and contain the running back. We can go to the next slide. So some of the key responsibilities, like I said, we really look for, and a lot of this is in the book, and I'm not going to go through this all in detail here on the video, but the big thing that we're looking for again is contain from the DNs. He's got the outside sweeps. They're usually lining up here, and you can see in this chart, here's a wing here, so he's the end man on the line, and then a tight end here, he's the end man on the line. And so this should be 2 to 3 yards outside of the man on the line here. And what I tell these guys is we want to be far enough where these guys, the end man line, can't really engage him without reaching for him and really leaning into him, so he can swing around that guy and get to his mesh point really fast and stay high. A lot of times you'll get a DN that wants to hit your tight. He wants to hit this guy. I don't want him touching that guy. I want him up here quick, because once I get him in the backfield, this is terrible, especially in youth football. Then it's really hard for an offense to operate if you've got 2 of these best defensive players up here in the backfield. It's just really, really hard to do. So the big thing, though, like I said, is this is a crash, this angle here. We don't want them doing that. We want them high up to their mesh points there. And if they need to make a tackle, they can make a tackle back down. So again, they've got this force contained responsibility. They need to stay high, keep their outside arm and shoulder free of any blocker. They want to attack any blocker with their inside hand extended, kind of a stiff arm, kind of bounce up and high as they're bouncing, and putting pressure on him, on his outside shoulder, kind of taking him with him, and maybe even rip by him. But they don't want to chicken fight with any blocker. They want to continue high and shuffle and almost sometimes have to backpedal so they can keep their outside leverage to the sweeping back. The other thing is we talk about is we want to keep this tight angle here. And when I can talk about, I don't want to coming up here and boxing straight up, because that creates this huge hole here. They've got to stay tight on this angle. They've got to stay tight on the angle. That's the reason I don't box anymore, because the box sets up this huge running lane if you box up right here. But if they're tight, they can help fall back in and squeeze to the running backs if that running back and they see the ball going underneath them. They want to stiff arm the blockers, inside hand, arm and hand. They have to use their forearm and do a rip and they, like I said, they may have to shuffle and stuff arm. They want to really keep, all the blockers out of this chest area and really have these hands extended. It's almost like you can do the drill with bags and have them extend their hands and kind of bounce as they're getting higher and higher and pushing the blocker down and using his leverage almost to pull him down as they go up. We want to force all the runners and the blockers that we can down underneath into the C gap, into the meat of our defense there, because there's only basically one guy outside of them, maybe if the corner hasn't gone on pass protection there. So that's a very big key. If they do see this power kind of running game coming at them, they can decide, are they going to take 3 of these guys out and try to create a pile and turn them back in? But that's their choice that they're going to have to make. I would rather them keep their feet and try to fight high, so it slows that back down a little bit, so the linebacker could come inside out up on that. And staying high does not mean you crash. Make sure you're telling these guys every time, stay high. Don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. And they're not really reading until they're past the tight end's butt or wingback's butt, and they're in the backfield, and then they're kind of reading there. And so, like the chart says, if they see the ball drop, they're going to make the tackle almost on the back shoulder of the running back, but they've got to see the football because they're responsible for any bootleg, reverse, or counter. So they've got to pay attention to that. Let's see what else I've got here. Arms extended. So this is the thing again here, and you can see how they line up. This end of the man on the line is really key. Now, one thing you can tell your 2 inside linebackers here is when you've got the wing deal here, because your D end will be here. This sometimes, especially if they've got an overloaded line, is a little weak, and your linebackers need to pay attention to that. But yeah, so that's the slide there. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so here's some things on this slide. Is if the tight end has moved out to a split or a slot, and if they're in kind of a nasty tight end over here. Let's talk about this nasty tight end over here. They still got their aiming points and they know what they're trying to do here. But usually the tight ends lined up here, and they would be on there. I don't want them lining up on that. I want them to pretend a guy's there. And if the nasty tight end is within 5 yards of the tackle here, I want them playing head up and kind of taking a little angle like that around and still trying to hit their mesh point there. If they line up here, he's just got a really nice block down. So they need to kind of fight around him and get to their point. And what I tell them is they can take a jab step here, because most of the time these 2 guys are running backs. They get this blocker coming down and they can come up. And that's where the speed, you really need these 2 guys to be really smart, and it helps if they're real fast and they can get off the ball very quickly. We really, really want them to be doing that. So that's how you play this nasty tight end. Now, if Y over here is way out here, he's going to kind of split the difference a little bit, and he's got to watch for the crackback, which is what's going on over here. He's got this slot here. So he can move out maybe a little bit wider here. There's no tight end. I don't want him moving in because it disrupts the angle. Because if he moves in, his angle's here and this guy can bow out. I don't really want that to happen. He needs to pretend there's a guy there. But what he's got to watch for now with this wing back that's off the line, and you talk to these guys, is this crack back here. And this guy, we do this a lot. We set this guy here to come down on this. So he's got to get upfield. He's got to get upfield fast. Because if he sits here, this block is going to occur and he's done. So you can't have your DN sitting at the line of scrimmage reading when we're in this tango blitz set and they're on the line of scrimmage. They have to go, and that's what I preach. They have to go. They have to go on the ball snap. They cannot be reading. They can start reading about right here and up and make a decision, but they have to get past the butts of these linemen really fast, so they can not, so they're past the blockers that are going to touch them. So once again, be careful of getting too close. The only time they're going to get close is if they're in this nasty tight end set, and I let them get close, and we're going to just try to fight around this guy to get high on him. And he may want to take an outside edge there, but he needs to be careful, because when he does that, and he may want to look over at that inside linebacker, is this box right here becomes really big, fullback through, and so the linebackers, your inside guys, need to know that this is a big hole sitting here, and they're probably going to have to fill that a little bit. So that's something there to look for. The other thing, okay, so a lot of teams will overload in like a single wing or a beast type thing, and this becomes kind of unique, and this is where the more traditional box kind of occurs. So if you've got one of your DNs on the side of kind of the single wing beast or this kind of thing sitting here, where you've got this overloaded backfield and this overloaded line, he wants to play more of a traditional box right on top of these guys, because usually all this is occurring right here. They hardly ever sweep wide, and so I want him a little tighter to play here to help with this CDE thing going on right here. And he's most of the time probably going to try to get double teamed out, and so he's going to have to fight that right here, so he needs to be aware of that. And usually when we see this, all our line is shifted over. But this is how the defensive end plays when you've got this beast or fat blocking setup right here. Now the backside, there's usually a tight end here. He might be a little tight here. You get him out. He's still taking his route to the two, because you've got a counter or a reverse coming back from those guys. So he still has to take his reverse. And really, when you've got this kind of single wing little thing here, a lot of those counters and reverses work well. So this guy needs to know when this is happening in this formation, there's definitely a possibility of counters reverses. And he needs to get here and set here, not chase anybody over there, because that underneath, I don't like chasing the DNs to chase a back. The backside's going to chase the back through, because you're really looking for, I really want him to look underneath too for a counter coming back down the line of scrimmage. So I like them to get to their mesh point and then start looking underneath and top, and really in this kind of formation to look below for any counter coming back through. And that's over there. So really, again, be careful of this guy getting too tight, because then his angle really sets up if they come out with the reverse. So make sure if there's no tight end that they still have a good depth from where the tight end should be, instead of tightening up on that. Now in a double wing formation, this is kind of unique, and it really depends on what your scouting report is. But when I play a double wing team, this will linebacker is actually going to key this back, and this guy is going to key this back, because you've got a lot of this motion going on. And so that's what I tell them. And when you're playing a double wing team, you might want to take more of an arc angle than actually a straight angle, because everything really, and you need to base this on your scouting report, what you see, everything's going to be very tight to the line of scrimmage most of the time. We've played a couple of double wing teams where our DNs made like every tackle, almost, probably 80% of them, because they're in the backfield and disrupting everything. So just make sure they're not too high. They're a little bit tighter on their angle there. It's more of an arc angle. And they based on your scouting report, they may watch their opposite wing back, because that guy's probably running at them or on a counter there. And that's kind of unique about the double wing. And then these two guys, the linebackers, are really worried about what's going on here. And so that's it there. Now on a double wing running back pass play, We can talk about that. That's kind of unique to the DN, but let's talk about this other thing real quick while we're talking about. Usually, let's pretend this is a split backfield here, and it sort of is with the quarterback or whatever. But when it's a split backfield, this guy's got this guy, this guy's got this other back, and if there's a quarterback there, the linebackers are worried about that. And so you can tell from this, he's got his second back here. He's going high to his point here, which he should. And so that's that. The other thing is on this particular chart, though, is when one of these running backs does this little flare fade kind of thing and starts hopping, you can we go over this and teach them kind of what's going to happen here. The will linebacker here is, or at the end, is responsible for this little flare thing in the backfield. It's almost, excuse me, like sort of like a pitch. And so when he sees that, he's got his route here, he's coming up, he sees that, he's got to cut that off and get over here. We've intercepted and knocked down many balls like that. And so he's got to see that. The linebacker also has to see that and come up and fill here really quick because you're going to leave this gap. But this play, this is kind of unique, and this is where Will and Sam get an opportunity to kind of play some pass coverage there. And it's these little flare passes in the backfield here. So that's very critical there for them to do that. Yeah, so I think that's all on that particular chart. Oh, and then we do have, usually we're set up on the line of scrimmage with our two defensive ends. And I call that hawk because they're attacking and they're just, they're going. But sometimes maybe like here, you've got a trips formation. They're in a shotgun. You've got a tight setback here with a wide receiver over there. To get a little bit more help here underneath zone, I like to play, and Will is in this, it could be the other one. I like to play what I call owl, which is they back up into a traditional kind of a high school outside linebacker position. The other linebackers, are lined up here. And he's now reading pass, run, contain. He still has contain, but he's also got this zone right here that he's got to deal with. And it's definitely much harder to play that. But since there's no back, you've got an empty set here. Might be a screen or something like that. So he's got this underneath pass zone, and he's also got contain with the quarterback. So he's got to fight these guys if this guy comes out. But that's how we play that, and that's called owl. And it is tougher. I would do that with older age groups, younger age groups. They're probably not going to pass on you that much. But that's definitely, I had one of the best defensive ends that have played for me in the past. He said that's definitely one of the hardest positions he's ever played there. It's a lot harder than playing up on the DN and going in under the hawk. And you can see the backside guy here. He's just got his tight end. He's 2 to 3 yards out. He's running his mesh point on the quarterback. What he's got to watch, and this really hurts, is this guy will sweep out and then boot. And if your guy's done this, that'll hurt. That's happened to us a couple of times. Your DN needs to make sure he's high on the quarterback and make sure nothing's coming back through. And this position, this is really set up for a good reverse or a good counter. So you need him up here. He can't crash and he can't go willy-nilly and just take off there. So that's a big thing with the DN. Now, like I said, the defensive end is kind of the foundation for the 6'2 multi-8 youth football defense, and really any 6'2. The two DNs, Will and Sam, are very, very critical to our defensive package. The reason Will is with the W, he's on the wide side of the field, and I do have them switch, and Sam is on the short side. And so if you've got a little bit better defensive end that's faster, put him at will, so he's lining up always on the wide side of the field, and Sam could be on the short side. If you don't have two really fast, if you're not lucky enough to have two really fast defensive end, you can have a really smart, slow backside defensive end. And I've played with that, and it's worked out really well. Sometimes they're just so smart they get to their mesh and create a lot of havoc, and they never get burned on reverses and counters, which is really what you're looking for. That short side really to take care of is a lot of counters and reverses, usually from that back side. To be short, they'll run those too. So that's a little bit more on the defensive end. But on the defensive end, you must emphasize you can't crash, and you've got contain. I put together a contain pod video on one of the drills that I run all the time for our defensive ends and linebackers and corners. Definitely use that. But make sure, if you did buy the book, you can print out the pages, especially if you've got kids that are old enough to read the 6 or 7 pages on how to play the defensive end, which goes over everything in the video here. It's very important that they understand all their keys and responsibilities, and a lot of that is outlined in the book, what's going on there. Just wanted to give you a quick update today, overview of how to play the defensive end position in the 6-2 multi-8 youth football defense. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know I'm long-winded here. It's about 26 minutes now. But if you like the video, please like it. If you have any comments or questions, I left something out you think, please mark those below in the comments below, and I'll try to answer all of those. If your defensive coach or another coach may need this information, please share it. If you've liked all the videos I've been doing, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps out a lot if you subscribe. You can donate if you'd like to. There's a button up here. You can shop my store, which I get a percentage of. And I've actually got, the 6-2 multi-8 youth football defense. That book is almost done. You can get an advanced copy, draft of it. It should be completed by the 15th of September. But it's pretty much got all the meat in there. I'm just trying to edit and add some things and maybe some advanced concepts to the appendix. But all the meat is in the book right now. I also just put together a book on the Power Wing Beast offense. It's a draft. It's a lot of charts. It's actually about 150 plays and charts of the plays that I've been running over the last 10 years or so. And a lot of beast plays are in there, and single wing, double wing, power eye, diamond trig formation, and some of that kind of stuff. But you can take a look at those books over at coachparker.org. Hey, I hope you guys have had a great day. This is Coach Parker with coachparker.org. Remember to play for fun, and winning is funner. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.